Senator Hanson, how would you describe today's announcement, the fact that Barnaby Joyce is now a One Nation MP?
I'm really excited about it. You know, it's a big plus for the party to have Barnaby. He's a figure that a lot of Australians relate to, respect. He's been, you know, Deputy Prime Minister of the country. He's been across many portfolios as a minister. And I think that we're on the same page, what we want for our country, and it's great to have him on board. Very pleased about it.
And what did you offer him to get him across the line to leave the Nationals and join One Nation?
I didn't offer him anything. Barnaby gave it serious thought. And we know that Barnaby was really annoyed with the National Party, with this net zero, and they wouldn't get out of the Paris Agreement, same as the Liberal Party. He doesn't see a future for this country. If we're going to actually bring down power prices, get industries manufacturing back, small businesses relief, farming sector as well, nothing will happen under the coalition government. And that's why he's passionate about this. And he thought One Nation has been the only party that actually stood our ground from the very beginning to get rid of net zero. And we have to get out of the Paris Agreement, otherwise it's been hypocritical. So there's a lot of things with mass migration. As he said, you know, One Nation has fought these issues. We were the first to come out against the Voice, the COVID-19 debacle that happened in our country. You know, many other issues about what's happening in our educational system, or the, you know, can't say what's a man or woman. So there's so many issues across the board. And Barnaby, you know, feels that he's not representing the Australian people.
In terms of political parties, though, we often see, you know, a leader, a deputy leader, people have portfolios. So is that something you're considering with Barnaby Joyce? Could he be the deputy leader of One Nation? Will he get portfolios of any type? No. It hasn't even been discussed. And I haven't had deputy leaders of the party at all, although we're only 4 in the Senate. So we're not big enough to worry about deputy leaders and all the rest of it. We're not heading down that path, all right? What I will look at is portfolios for different members of Parliament now that we have to handle it, because it's a lot for any one of us to be right across all the legislation portfolios. So, and what sort of portfolios do you think Barnaby Joyce could have? If Barnaby Joyce, which portfolios?
I think anything to do with it, yeah. Anything to do with the agricultural sector, whether you're looking at the net zero, although Malcolm Roberts is right across that. I think that we need to all sit down together as a team and have a look at this. I'm not going to advocate you do this, you do that. I want people with their strengths that they can actually bring to the party and to the floor of Parliament.
So let's go back to the beginning though, Senator Hanson. How did this all come about? Did you reach out to Mr Joyce in the first place, or did he get in touch with you?
No, I didn't. Actually, I did say that prior to the last election I had a talk with Barnaby. He was not happy where he was in the National Party, and he said it was quite obvious they don't want him there. So anyway, he stood for that. He stuck loyal to them and he stood with them. But since this last election, it's quite evident, you know, he just said they don't want me. And he said, you know, the big issue with Barnaby, I think, was about net zero. It's destroying the country. He can see what's happening in the farming sector, all these environmental protection laws and legislation, the regulations that's coming in. He said no one's doing anything about it.
If you spoke to him ahead of the... Sorry, Senator, just to clarify, if you spoke to him ahead of the last election, did you try and convince him to come across to One Nation at that stage?
No, not just prior to the last election. That was more than a year ago, year outside the election, the last time I actually spoke to him. So it wasn't the last election. Barnaby said he was standing for the National Party and he wanted to remain loyal to the people, you know, that he has been a part of that party for a long time. So it had nothing to do with that. I think over the period of time, especially since then, and they weren't interested in the net zero, that he was getting no interest in his bill that he wanted to put up. And it's only because of the rise of One Nation that we've stood our ground against this net zero that now the National Party have actually taken up that policy, but they haven't gone far enough because you have to get out of the Paris Agreement, which they're not prepared to do. So there's a combination of issues there. You know, Barnaby
feels that he's going to have more of a voice to represent his electorate and the Australian people without being shut down, and that's under One Nation, and I'm proud to have him on board.
So when did the agreement get locked in? Was it, that dinner? Did the sandwich press get him over the line? When was it finalised?
Stephanie, the decision was his to make, all right?
Yeah, I'm just asking when it was finalised.
Yeah, I don't keep a diary that, this agreement was finalised at this date and time. So you're not going to get that from me. I don't keep this diary that, everything was locked in at this point in time. It's taken some time. Barnaby thought about this long and hard, about what was best for him and also his community and the seat of New England and where he goes from here moving forward. And he sees it's better to represent his constituency and the country under the banner of One Nation. And that's the way it's happened.
OK, well, now that you've got Barnaby Joyce in your team, who else is on your wish list from a federal point of view?
I haven't spoken to anyone else.
But you'd have a wish.
Anyway,
do you have a wish list, though? Yeah, it's not about whether you've spoken to people. Do you have a wish list? Are there people that you would like to join your party as well as just Barnaby Joyce?
Look, there's only a couple in there that I would actually consider because I see how wishy-washy they are. I'm sorry, I don't have respect for a lot of those people on the floor of Parliament. When you have important issues that come up on the floor of Parliament, that will impact the Australian people. And when I see them actually, leave the chamber, or they don't vote for it, or they stick with the Labor and the Greens, I don't particularly want their type of politics. They're too moderate, and they're not going to help the Australian people.
Well, what about at a state level? What about at a state level? You've obviously recently opened that branch there in Tamworth. Have you got interest in opening up branches, say, in South Australia or Victoria?
We've opened up about 70 branches across this country in the last couple of months since I've launched branches. We're doing extremely well. We're getting 70 just in Huonville in Tasmania on Saturday. That's a staunch Greens area. We had 70 people turn up there to a branch opening of launch. I was up at Yeppoon on Saturday. We had over 100 at that branch launch in Yeppoon. So it is the Australian people that are fed up with the major political parties. It's not about who bringing these ex-members of Parliament across. I want to have grassroots Australians that want to come on board, join the branches, get the communities on side and stand for politics themselves. I want this new breed of Australians that have the fight in them, not just about a job, it's representing their communities.
With working with Barnaby Joyce into the future, in the past, a number of years ago, he described one of your views as bat poo crazy. Are you confident that the two of you will be able to work together in the future?
I think I remember him making that comment. Isn't it quite funny, Steph, that over the years I was ridiculed for about criticising multiculturalism? Isn't it funny now that even the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister John Howard, and said it hasn't worked, and other leaders around the world who are pushing this? What has globalisation done for our country? What has, the way we locked down with COVID-19? Mass migration, how has that helped us? The trouble is that a lot of these politicians won't speak out against or say anything because they're in fear of losing their seats. Yeah, they're bound and committed to the political
leaders
parties.
Of both the government and the Liberal Party agree that multiculturalism is working in Australia. That's not the argument we're having at the moment, though. My point is, because Barnaby Joyce has said that term in the past about one of your policies, have you got any concerns that something like that might arise again, some sort of, disagreement?
No, I haven't. Steph, I've got a thick skin, okay? If you think that's going to worry me, but what he said in the past is a concern. Remember, he made the decision to come across the One Nation. So I'm saying he must be quite happy with the policies and what we're representing and doing. So, no, that doesn't worry me.
Just finally, Senator, before I let you go, talking of people moving across to One Nation, of course, in the past we saw Mark Latham jump ship and join your party, but that didn't end out well. How do you ensure that it's not a similar story with what we're seeing with Barnaby Joyce?
Well, just look at the history of Mark Latham, will you? You know, the comments that he made against another, Member of Parliament. And I had to apologise. So we're not going to head down that path. But anyway, that's why I do draw the line at certain comments. And there's certain people, when you see their stance on certain issues, I can't stand by.
Senator
I don't
Hanson,
think that Barnaby is that type of person.
Senator Hanson, thank you for joining Afternoon Briefing today.